I'm Simon Viklund, co-founder at 10 Chambers and audio director and composer.
And I'm Robin, and I'm the communications director at 10 Chambers.
Player agency is a huge component in Dunawolves. It's something we really work in order to emphasize in the game, you know. So it's about player choice and the ability to sort of feel like that criminal mastermind, you know, and really be the one to call the shots. So that's what it's all about. And part of that is being able to plan the heist and decide what prep missions to take on in order to collect the gear and equipment and intel, and complete the tasks needed in order to be able to pull off the heist.
No, I wouldn't say, because it's so much optimization that goes in, like in the later stage of development, let's say. So like right now, it would actually require quite a good PC. I think those are pretty good. So no, but I do know that we want to optimize the game. I think that's something we did well with TK as well. He runs very well, even on like a lower spec PC. But yeah, it's too our specs, unfortunately. But I know we're able to.
Yeah, we're not trying to make a game that is like pushing the envelope in terms of graphics.
Yeah, it's not like Star Citizen. You need to from NASA. Yeah.
I mean, it's a concept that exists in a lot of science fiction, you know, with there's movies from the 90s like Matrix, obviously, Existence, Strange Days, you have Inception. So it exists in media, you know, in movies. But our reasoning for putting it into the game is not that it's like, oh, it works in the movie, we want to have it in the game. It's something that actually adds to the game experience. It's our opportunity to inject something into the game that becomes an exciting sort of change of pace, change of location, or a change of gameplay style, you know, and gameplay intensity. So you can be in a stealth scenario, and then you go into a dive, and then you throw into this full-on action experience. Or the other way around, where it's like full-on action in the real world, and then you're pulled into a dive where it's like super creepy and slow-paced and more of a stealth scenario. Maybe you're being hunted by some monster in a dark forest, or sort of, you know. So it could be. It's a really cool concept that sort of just keeps players on their toes. It's things interesting, you know, because gameplay is different as well. It could be. That's like here it's more of a parkour, jumping, platforming sort of thing, but it could be a shooter experience as well, but with like tweaked rules a little bit, because it's such a low stakes environment where if you fail there, you don't fail the entire heist, you're just thrown back into the real world, and then you just set up another dive and sort of try again. We can tweak things so that players coming to a dive are like, oh, what's the deal now? What are we supposed to do here? How are the rules different, you know? And that's really interesting, you know. It could be like one shot or a kill, you know, more of a military simulator type experience. So we can play around a lot, which is super good. It can be anything really, as long as we feel it serves the game, like it's something that you do cooperatively as a team, and that's exciting and challenging in a nice way, and it's something that we feel confident that we can pull off. So we wouldn't do like a platformer, so like we went to a completely different genre. It will be first-person, like a third-person experience, but we can bend the rules and then sort of stretch that. You know, there can be a lot of different things. It'll be super interesting to see what we. Yes, we're not bound by like an IP either, where it's like we need to follow the rules of a movie or a TV show or an existing game. But we can like, oh, a dive could be 60 seconds, but it can be 60 minutes. Or we can have a dive within a dive. We can have, you know, you can go crazy any way we want. Anything that we feel is like, oh, you know what would be cool, you know, and then would we play well, you know, that would be interesting for people to experience. Yeah, we can put that in game because we make the rules. So that's a luxury. Well, it's a platform. Like we want to be able, I guess. A lot of decisions, this is a boring answer, but a lot of decisions are made because of production, like, oh, we want to be able to move this platform further away because that's the right distance for the junk, you know, or oh, it's too hard, we need to move it this way, you know. And then you don't want the platform to be attached to walls in space, so they're just floating in midair. And then you just start to sell that concept by having like rocks float around in the air, and so it becomes this sort of abstract, nightmarish or dream life scenario where things are just floating in midair, just because it makes it easy to just move things around. But dives don't always have to be like that. They can be more feel like a real place, you know, as well. So that's not representative of how all dives are. Not in terms of gameplay. Like not all dives will be platforming, and not all dives will look like that sort of nightmare or that abstract sort of floating in space type thing. You know? But what's interesting is that we can do that because it's not the real world. It's about people who know what they're doing. It's about precision and like being, you know, on top and being, you know, ahead of the police or whatever the security forces that are trying to stop you, you know. So a lot of the sound designers just try to capture that sort of like exactness and precision and sounding like a well-oiled machinery, you know. So it's supposed to sound very, you know, very satisfying to just use the weapons and use them, you know, pushing the buttons or everything. It helps make it sound futuristic, and then adding a little bit of dirt to it just makes it feel more, you know, gritty and real and the dangerous, I guess. And that goes to the music as well. The music is supposed to be very sort of pump you up and make you feel badass, but also have a dirty sort of grittiness to it, and then mixed with a futuristic sort of sound of synthesizers and stuff. And I think you managed to hit like sort of a cool bite, you know, of it, both the sound design and the music, instead of allowing you to realize it. It was experimental. Like I tried several things out, you know, more cinematic, where it's more like strings or, you know, more of a symphonic approach maybe, or like hybrid music, you know, where it's more like, oh, you have the cinematic drums and everything, but in the end, I tried some rock influences as well, not taking the guitars from rock, but the drums, like live drums, and mixing that with electronic components as well. But in the end, I was like, it's sort of more like street inspired music, like hip hop influences, trap influences, slower, more deliberate, heavier sort of beats, lots of bass and distorted sounds, like what you've been doing now. It's just been experimenting and trying it out. He's looking at the visuals of the game and getting inspired, you know, from the game itself, from concept art for the game. It's sort of fun and sound. Feeling badass, feeling like you're going where no one's gone before, sort of like, you know, breaking into places, breaking into the mind, you know, doing something that's you know, sort of unapproved or what's the word, that you're not allowed to do, and what other people can't do because you're an expert in your field, you're a career criminal, I can do that stuff, you know. It's not like people are diving all the time in the world of the rules. Diving is something that is like illegal, and only a few people dare to do it, because you come out of a dive, it's like you have a migraine and a nosebleed, you know. It's not pretty. They're not designed, like there's not off-the-shelf equipment that you can get in order to do a dive, you know. That's something you sort of jerry-rig things, you know, and solve yourself in order to just because you're a criminal, and that's the only way to solve this mission that you've been given for. So it's giving the player that feeling that they're pushing the envelope and going, you know, physically where no one's gone before, but also going, or at least where they're not supposed to be going, you know, breaking into places, but also going into people's minds and stuff is more like super dangerous. And grittiness, I think, is important as well. Like it's futuristic, but it's not like pristine and clean, you know. It's dirty and there's graffiti and it's like, there's screens everywhere, but they're distorted, and there's like fragments of you know, it's a sort of a broken future. Oh boy, with a moral dystopia is what we call it. Yeah, we freeze time in the real world. So essentially, if a grenade goes off, throwing like bodies around, and you go to that at that moment, when you come back to the real world, those bodies will be in midair and continue flying as time starts again. Yeah, super cool. No, well, I mean, you leave the real world, and you're not carrying sort of the health and the ammo and stuff. There are no the conditions of the real world don't really affect the what's happening in the dive. And that's part of the reason why the dive is such a good concept, because it's like it can be so different, and you're not relying on what you did in the real world. Then the dive to be something completely, for those sort of drastically different. I mean, one component is just making it more like reinventing it and making it more futuristic visually, but obviously it's also making it more portable, because you can have several, you know, so you can decloak sort of and climb up on one of those doors, or vault doors. It's that also is a game that will require a little bit more from the players than your generals in a co-op shooter. So you can have several spider drills at the same time, so they need to be sort of compact in a way. It can't be this huge thing, and then that's the one drill that you do that you need to tend to and sort of check up on. We want it to be a game that, you know, requires the players to keep track of several things at once, which is one of the things that makes it sort of the thinking man's or co-op shooter. Yeah, it's this, and there's a lot to say about it, but I think Robin did a good job of summarizing the backstory. That AI just becomes this tool that makes it easy to hack into different places, and then you know, they need a new technology, and the corporations demand that in order to solve this, they want an unregulated innovation zone, which is what they get, and they built the city on Midway Islands, and it becomes Midway City, and that's an unregulated innovation zone, which means that they can make laws themselves. They don't could sort of bother with ethical standards or like human rights and stuff. So they come up with a new type of technology for data storage and data transmission that is entirely biological. And then you come to that city as someone just lucky to make money, and the best way, if you're not already like an owner of a corporation, is to be a tool for the corporations to do what they mean to do, or to compete with others, you know. So they hire you, but they need to do the dirty work, you know. You're a wet worker. If you Google that term, it's actually what to do. A wet worker is just a nice way of saying someone who does the dirty work, you know, with assassinations or sabotage, or, you know, rather robbery, breaking in, stealing stuff. It can be, what do you call it? Industrial espionage, all that sort of stuff. And then every storyline is its own sort of jog, where a corporation is hiring you. There's not one campaign of the game that we play from start to finish. It's going to be like a smorgasbord and different missions that you play. And they're all different sort of storylines that tell the story of you being hired by a corporation in order to solve one of their problems, or, you know, attacking one of their rivals or whatever. And then there's twists and turns, obviously, to that, whereas things are not always what they seem to be at the beginning. So we draw a lot of inspiration from real world sort of corporate overreach, but also like techno thriller type sources. We very much don't have it release date. It's done when it's done, is our philosophy. We don't want to commit to a release date because we're sure enough for, because it puts so much pressure on us.
Yeah.
And the entire team, obviously. And as Robin said in the presentation, there's too many games these days being released that are, broken because they committed to like, oh, it's going to be on these platforms, it's going to be out on this date, and then they either mean to release a broken game in order to meet those promises, or they fail to deliver on that promise and they actually have to like, push the release date or whatever. So it's better to just say, like, I realize it's nice for people to have this mental note, like, oh, that game is coming out in the fall, or that coming out in next year or whatever, and I'm looking forward to it. But then we just have to settle for like, oh, this is in the works and it's cool. So if you want to keep an eye on it, we suggest you wishlist it on Steam and use that as a way to sort of like put a flag in our game to keep track of what's happening, because it is going to be minimal. But we don't know at this point what is going to come out.
Shout out to Latin America, of course. What we're gonna add, that we're if you're into first-person shooters and especially current high games, I think Wolves would be exciting for you.
Yeah,
we're doing something feels a bit new, but we're also polishing the things that was successful with Payday 1, 2, and also GTFO. I mean,
yeah,
revolutionary.
It's not about making an entirely new genre. Obviously, I mean, we feel like this is our wheelhouse. Like this is what we can do really well. So then Wolves is the next iteration, it's the future of this genre, really, because we're looking at the game for all different aspects, polishing and tweaking and making sure that everything is getting even better in terms of, tighter, more effective storytelling that doesn't disrupt sort of the gameplay or interrupt the gameplay. More player agency where the players get to decide for themselves how to do things. It's easier to get along with other people when you play in multiplayer, whether it be with friends or randoms. All these aspects of the game we're looking at it from every angle and trying to like polish this concept and make it super tight. So it's really something to look forward to for anyone who's into first-person shooter games in general and co-op shooter games in particular.